Curse of the Kichai Shaman. Chapter 4, Archeologist. Now that David had his degree, he began to look for work. First, he enrolled for a week-long class at the Texas Archaeological Society Field School to get some experience. They were doing excavations at the Spanish mission site of Nuestra Señora de la Purísima Concepción, near Nacogdoches, Texas. They were excavating pits and screening the dirt that was removed. David was exhilarated every time he found something in his unit. He found 84 shards of brown pottery, 26 rocks that could have been stone tools, 19 animal bone fragments that looked like they were mostly domestic cattle, and 57 shards of glazed pottery that came from outside areas. Every find thrilled him, and he loved what he was doing. He did not have time to stop and make videos for his YouTube channel, but he did take some time to video the different colors of dirt that came out of different units that were piled up in the screening area. When his week at the school was up, he had gotten a lead from the Texas Archaeological Society that United Environmental Solutions out of McKinney. Texas was hiring archaeologists. United Environmental Solutions work in the Texas and Oklahoma area. They employ cost-effective strategies to ensure historic and prehistoric resources are considered during the design phase of any given project. The president and chief executive officer was a woman named Tamara Schneider, and she owned the company. David contacted them, first by email and then in person by going to their corporate headquarters in McKinney, Texas, near Dallas-Fort Worth. He met with Joan Gibson, who was the lead principal investigator. David had prepared a resume that focused on his education since he had no real professional experience in the field of archaeology. He made a good impression on Ms. Gibson because he was hired to be a Level 1 field archaeologist. The first place David was sent as an archaeologist was Carlsbad, New Mexico, for a week-long survey. There, the team found ring middens of fire-cracked rock. Inside the ring was a depression where it is believed that the food resource was being cooked. Most likely it was yucca and sortal bulbs. The fire-cracked rocks forming the rings were a meter high. The archaeologists and David's team were visiting sites located during an earlier phase of the project. When they found an item of interest on the ground, they would mark it with a pin flag. Then they would go back to each flag and record its position with GPS so that they could map out the boundaries of the site. They do not collect the artifact at this stage unless it is a complete projectile point that can be used as a diagnostic. They also did trowel tests inside and outside the ring middens so they can analyze the soil characteristics. Then they set a datum point and assign the site a number, take pictures, then move on to the next feature. David loved his job. There were 4 other archaeologists on this project. They were all very professional and passionate about their work like David was. He could not wait to find out what would be discovered next. That night, Dan and Mike, 2 of the other archaeologists on the project, asked David if he wanted to go out and get something to eat with them. David said sure, and they went to the Ocotillo Sports Bar and Grill that was just down the road from the Hampton Inn in which they were staying. The place was busy, but they went in anyway. They all got separate tabs, and David ordered the steak and fries and a Coke. David did not drink alcohol for the last 10 years. Dan did not drink either and got the tacos and a Coke. Mike, on the other hand, had a mixed drink and a burger. It took a long time to get their food. Mike ordered another mixed drink when the food finally came. It took the waitress a long time to bring Mike's drink. The food was good, and they stayed a while and watched the karaoke singers. Mike went to the bar and got another drink, hoping it would be faster. When they all tabbed out at the end of the evening, Mike's bill was $127.70. He asked the waitress why it was so much seeing drinks were listed as being $17.50. The waitress said that his drinks were doubles. Mike was angry and swore he would never return. David thought to himself that he was glad he had quit drinking alcohol. They went back to the Hampton Inn and said goodnight to each other and all headed to their rooms. David went to bed. He lay there and realized that he was happier than he had ever been before. He absolutely loved his job. He called Helene and told her about his day before drifting off to sleep. That night he had a dream. He was holding the figurine that he had found in the wall 3 years ago in his hand and looking at it. Then he looked down and realized he was in a dig site, and there was a clay pot on the ground that looked like the pot that the figurine was placing. It had the same markings, but the clay pot on the ground was sealed with a clay lid. Suddenly the lid cracked open, and a smoky vapor came out of the pot. David woke up suddenly, and it was morning. David finished up the week in New Mexico. He was having the time of his life and loved his job. He also loved Helene for helping him live his dream and understanding him being gone on projects for extended periods of time. Next, David was sent to the Ouachita Mountains of Arkansas to do a survey for the United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service. He headed into the woods with 3 other team members. They took shovels and screens with them. They had a GPS locator with places pinned on it where they were supposed to do tests. When they got to a location determined by the GPS, they dug a hole and screened everything that came out. Then they geolocate the test site and move on. During the week-long survey, David walked 45 miles and dug approximately 100 holes. He traversed the Homachito National Forest and the Ouachita National Forest. Near Norfolk Lake, he made a surface finding of some well-used hammerstones and some cobbles that had a flake knocked out of them by a hammerstone. The cobbles proved to be too grainy for making tools and points, so they were discarded. In Burnett County, Texas, he found a classic Bulverde-type projectile point dating between 1500 to 2000 BCE in an exposed midden on a cut of a creek bank. Then on the surface, he found a Kirk-type projectile point made from silicified sandstone, which is a common material for points made in the area. He also came across historical sites in Burnett County. On the shores of Lake Buchanan, where the water had receded, he found the ruins of a homestead, and on the surface was a crushed tin lid of Pompeian bloom, a rouge used by women as makeup. That type of tin was in circulation from 1920 to 1925. Also on the lakeshore was a stone chimney near a rock-lined root cellar that had a rusted pail and galvanized wash tub from the late 19th century. And close by was a house foundation that had been made of rocks which were now just pushed in a pile. All these sites get inundated with water when the lake's water level is higher. David loved his job. He loved exploring, and every time he found an item, he got the same rush that he had when he found the funerary relic in the wall of the house in Bryker Woods. He did not think that his life could ever get any better. He only wished he had gone back to college 10 years ago so he could spend even more time doing what he loved.